This is HSC Option 2. We're up to the third key idea. How does the mass media contribute to people's understanding, values and beliefs about sport? We're focusing on this recording on the right-hand side of the syllabus here, the questions. There was 3 particular questions under this dot point, and on this recording we're going to focus on this question here, the second question. How does the media influence our understanding of sporting events? So the media determines by what products that they show determines what sports are going to be popular in this country. And there are 3 sports that dominate the sports media landscape. They are cricket, AFL and NRL. Now, depending on what state you live in, particularly in New South Wales where we live, it's the NRL in winter that dominates the media coverage. But if you were to live in, say, Victoria or South Australia, it would be well and truly AFL that dominates. But during the summer months, pretty much right around Australia, it's cricket that gets the media focus. Now with that, they get what every sporting code desires or craves, and that's extensive free-to-air TV coverage. That means, what I mean by free-to-air is people do not have to pay for the service, so it is what the type of the TV medium that gains the highest ratings and therefore the highest exposure for their game. Now, if the media determines what sports are going to be successful, then you can make the conclusion that the media is also going to determine what sports will struggle simply by what sports they don't show much of on TV. Now, 2 sports in Australia that have fairly significant participation figures and rates are hockey and basketball. So what I mean by that, during the weekend, lots of young people and people who aren't so young enjoy playing hockey and basketball. But in terms of TV coverage, those 2 sports receive very little TV coverage, particularly on free-to-air. And as a result, financially, both of those sports are struggling in this country. The media also contributes to age-old stereotypes about sport that pretty much that sport is for males only. Now, that's obviously not a positive thing, but the media certainly contributes to that, and we talked about that in one of the earlier recordings. As a result of the domination of NRL, AFL and cricket on TV, female and athletes in sports receive very little media coverage except at the time of the Olympics, and that's because female sportsmen are more successful in this country presently than their male counterparts. And during the Olympics, particularly with the swimming, females get their one chance in that every 4-year period where they actually get some more media coverage than the men. We're just going to have a little bit of a look now about how female athletes are actually depicted in the media. Now, in an attempt to gain media exposure, many sports are resorting to putting their players on court or when they're performing in these type of athletes in a bid to gain more media exposure and therefore more finance into their game. Also, leading female athletes such as Maria Sharapova, who is probably ranked currently, I think, number 2 in the world. Whenever you see a photo of Maria, this is the type of photo that you'll often see of her, a photo that is more emphasising on her looks as opposed to her athletic ability. Now, you can also access this PowerPoint through Moodle, where you'll be able to click on this up here and get access to this article that I'm about to show you. Now, a couple of years ago at Wimbledon, they created some controversy, the organisers of Wimbledon, when they put some of these players on centre court. Now, these players aren't very well known. In fact, number 45 ranked in the world, number 59 ranked in the world, number 28 ranked in the world. They all made centre court over these players. The number 5th seed, the number 1 seed at the time, and also the very famous Serena Williams. Now, those players above made it onto centre court as opposed to these higher ranked players who were put on court 1 or court 2. Now, you don't have to be a genius to work out what are the reasons for that. That decision was purely based on looks. Now, I'm trying to imagine that happening in the men's game, where the players such as Nadal, Federer and Djokovic would be bumped off centre court to get some better looking males to be played on the centre court. It just doesn't happen. And yet it seems that the organisers of Wimbledon feel like they have to do that in an attempt to get more people watching their product. Now, I've already given you, I think, quite enough to talk about in answering this type of question, but I'll just finish with this last example. The media also contributes to our understanding of sporting events, of issues other than what happens on the field. So what I mean by that is player behaviour and drugs in sport. And as I'm making this recording today, there was some media headlines about St Kilda AFL Club, who on the end of season celebration decided it's a bit of a bizarre story, as part of their celebration they hired some dwarfs to come into their party, and one of the players decided it would be a good idea to set fire to the dwarf, which is just a bizarre story. But so that story obviously dominated the news headlines here in Sydney today, and as opposed to some more important things that are happening in the country at the time, such as the election and the ongoing war in Syria. And you also have other issues such as drugs and sport, which have dominated the media front pages as well. So issues other than what happens on the playing field often are dominating news stories in this country.